On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, I'm reunited with Vivek Jacob to play a stupid little game that is staggeringly fun.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, August the 5th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. As always, free to join. Link in the description of the podcast. Come hang out with the freaks. Of course, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDINNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And today on the show, we're playing a stupid little game with the guy with whom I love to play stupid little games, who did a wonderful job carrying the show while I was off changing diapers and stuff for 6 weeks. Vivek Jacob is back. Big V, how the hell are you, pal? It's lovely to be on screen with you again.
It's great to be on screen with you again too, buddy. It's good to see you. It's great to see that you haven't lost too much sleep, but I am looking forward to talking Raptors with you. I watched your episodes and caught up on all your takes, so we are ready to go.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that it did not come back to a hostile takeover. There was some talk of that, and so I'm glad that I wasn't locked out of the accounts or anything like that. Thank you. You're very kind. And yeah, man, let's roll here. By the way, I've lost a lot of sleep, and maybe I'm putting on a good face. Thank you, Balzac's Coffee from Costco. Get that big bag, baby. But yeah, it's lovely to be back talking hoop. Let's get into it. Today on our stupid little game, we are going to do a thing from like early sports internet, where remember you get like a graphic where it's like you got to build your ultimate team with this many dollars, and all of these players have dollar numbers assigned. Not a very original concept, but we're going to do it through the lens of Toronto Raptors lineups. I've assigned a dollar amount to every player who figures to be a rotation player or has a shot at being a rotation player for the Raptors this season. And we're going to try to assemble 3 staggered in-between transitional lineups. That's the way it's going to work. There's not going to be all starters here because that's too damn expensive. And we're going to try to pick lineups that are actually going to win their minutes in the coming year. We will keep track of this. We will come back and determine a winner at lineup roulette with a budget at the end of the season. Let's go, Big V. Let's just first, we'll take a look at the dollar amounts. Then we'll talk a little about the sort of reason why we're doing this and the Raptors specific situation that could lead to a lot of staggered lineups this season. But for those listening, it's on screen if you're watching on video. If you're listening on audio, $5 assigned to Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and Jakob, the 3 guys who I think drive the most winning play or will drive the most winning play on the team. $4 for RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley. $3 for Ochai Agbaji and Grady Dick. $2 for Jacoby Walter, Mamu, and Colin Murray-Boyles, and then $1 for Jamal Shed, Jamison Battle, and Jonathan Mobo. Garrett Temple is free. I also misspelled Garrett Temple's name on the thing. I fixed it. I forgot to upload the fixed version. I'm an idiot. Either way, the reason why we're doing this here, Big V, is this Raptors team, I think it's pretty clear, is going to be stagger heavy this coming season. They've got 5 starters who all talented, but maybe the fit is a little suspect, and a bench full of extremely unproven guys who I think will be better served playing with better players and kind of filling in the gaps between those better players as opposed to doing the hockey change thing. This is not going to be 2017-18 with the bench mob and 5 bench guys coming in and schooling other teams. That was like a once in a generation anomaly of a lineup. I don't think we're going to see that again this year. If we do, awesome. That sounds fantastic to me, but I doubt that's what we're headed for. Do you agree that staggering is going to be the name of the game for the Raptors? And do you think this can be a strength for the team, or does this maybe point at sort of a weakness with a starting 5 that's maybe a little bit janky?
Yeah, I think honestly, all of the above. I think there are maybe potential fit issues with the starting lineup, and I think it is going to be optimal for Darko. When you look at the weaknesses of the bench and the inexperience that's still there, to have two starters on the floor at all times. And, I've said this before in a mailbag episode that I would be pretty shocked. And frankly, I think you'd have to ask questions of Darko if, if you see stretches of play where, 4 of the 5 starters are on the bench. And, what is there really a need for that? Unless there was like a Kyle Lowry plus bench lineup that absolutely blew you away, there would be no reason for that to happen. And the other thing I'll throw out there is, if you look at the way the Raptors played defense down the stretch of last season, if you look at the way they played defense over at Summer League, it's going to be a lot of intense ball pressure. And I think that would make you lean in favor of short shifts where players can go as hard as they can and then get a breather, come back in, and I think if we see more of that, obviously you're going to have to balance it out with players who kind of like to find a rhythm over a course of, say, 8-9 minute stretches. We know, obviously, Steph Curry is probably at the top of that list of guys who just likes to play the entire first quarter and just find his rhythm. So the Raptors will have their own guys who kind of like to do that. And so you're going to have to strike that balance. But I do think all of that lends to, hey, let's have at least 2 of these 5 starting guys, between Quickley, RJ, Ingram, Scotty, and Yak out there on the floor at all times.
With you 100%. It's not like it'll be, we're sounding the alarm bells the first time we see a lineup with 1 starter and 4 bench guys. But if it does become a recurring trend, then certainly it is like, is this a best use of the strengths of this roster? I think the strengths, like we talked about, I think the starting 5, there's talent in there. And I think, there's still, I'm not sold that the fit's going to be miserable. I think there's a chance they have a positive net rating together. Maybe not like an enormous positive net rating, but I think the offense can be good enough. I think Scottie Barnes and Jakob as the back line on the defense can be good enough that it can be a lineup that wins minutes for you, if not, dominating other teams. But I do think the strength is that there's a lot of different skill sets on this team, especially within the bench guys. You have lights out shooting with Grady Dick, Jamison Battle. You have switchable defense and playmaking with Colin Murray-Boyles and Jonathan Mobo. You have just like straight 3-and-D play with Ochai Agbaji. I think you can kind of fill in the gaps between the starters and not only kind of give those bench guys a chance to kind of shine, but also give those starters moments within games where they can kind of take the ball, cook a little bit with the stuff that they do best that maybe they wouldn't otherwise get to do when they're playing with the full freight of starters. And so let's get into it here, Big V. I want to throw it to you first. Throw me a lineup here to kick things off. Again, the rules here, we got to stay under $15. I'll bring it back up. I fixed it, by the way. Garrett Temple's name is spelled correctly now, baby. That's producing on the fly. We have, again, $5 for Barnes, Ingram, Poeltl, $4 for Barrett, Quickley, $3 Agbaji, Dick, $2 Walter, Mamu, Murray-Boyles, and $1 for Shed, Battle, and Mobo. Give me your first lineup. Again, it's got to win its minutes. We're going to tally it at the end of the season. There will be bragging rights on the line. Who you got?
So for me, I'm super curious to see a team that has length, that has some decent scoring, but can absolutely defend. And for me, I went with Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Brandon Ingram, Colin Murray-Boyles, and Scotty Barnes.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and I think obviously you've got the chemistry between Jamal Shed and Jacoby Walter, and you've got the intense ball pressure that they'll bring together in the backcourt. I think we've seen in Summer League that they need some offensive help. So you've got Brandon Ingram there to be the release valve. You've got obviously Scotty Barnes in there. And so you've effectively got your 2 best players out there. And then you've got Colin Murray-Boyles, who obviously as a rookie, we still have some pretty good expectations of him defensively, and he teased some of that at Summer League. And whatever he gives you on the offensive end, he's still, maybe he'll show you some of that rim pressure. Maybe he'll have some nice finishing off of, whatever Ingram and Scotty are able to create. And so I just think it's a really nice mix of players. I think there's some really great length between that front court of Ingram, CMB, and Scotty. And then, of course, you got Shed and Jacoby.
We nearly lined up on our first lineup, I will say. I think the one sort of hole I would poke in your lineup is That's a grim shooting scene if Jamal Shed is not knocking down like 36% of his catch and shoots. And so I swapped out Jamal Shed for another $1 player, and that's Jamison Battle. So I've got Barnes, Ingram, Walter, Battle, Murray-Boyles. I think you have enough collective playmaking there between Barnes, Ingram, Murray-Boyles, even Walter in secondary situations to put the ball on the deck, make something happen, on the second side. I think there's enough there that can be functional enough on offense. And I think that just the space and breadth that Jamison Battle provides as just a dude is out there to knock down 40% of his threes and take every single open look that comes his way. I think to me that is a slightly more shooting friendly, offense friendly version of that lineup. But that lineup I think we'll see some version of those four players, Barnes, Ingram, Walter, and Murray-Boyles, play together. I think it will be nasty defensively, and I can't wait to see it. I just think the addition of shooting and, frankly, some size there, a Battle in there, I don't think he's a slouch defensively necessarily. He's not like a lockdown guy, but he's functionally big enough to kind of fit in with those guys. It is almost Vision 6'9" come back to life a little bit, just with 3-point shooting. What a beautiful thing. And so we're pretty close on our first lineups. We'll see if we deviate at all going into our second and third lineups. I also want to talk a little bit about Scottie Barnes with the bench, which was a struggle big time this past season. We'll get into all that coming up here in just 1 second as we continue along our lineups on a budget. We'll find a better name for it. I didn't think of it. It's just a stupid little game, okay? We'll do it more coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at 5 Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course, if you're a golfer or you're off it, you need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I'm not golfing much these days because I'm taking care of a little 7-week-old. And boy, oh boy, is it nice to have a 5 Hour Energy laying around to give myself a boost. The afternoons can get tough after a long night of kind of stop and start, waking up, feeding the kid, going back to sleep, not getting a lot of rest in sort of long succession. The 5 Hour Energy shot is huge. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your favorite clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev card. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid till September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or turning 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5 Hour Energy shots today. Back at it here with Big V Vivek Jacob as we continue to play our stupid little game where we have dollar amounts assigned to Toronto Raptors players. We got to come up with lineups. They're going to win minutes, baby. We had very similar lineups to start things off. Let's get to our second lineups. Before we do that, though, Scottie Barnes. He's someone who last year extremely struggled with just him plus 4 bench guys, or even 3 bench guys. I think his ability to drive winning minutes, kind of no matter who he's playing with, is going to be kind of a huge deal. Do you have optimism that with this sort of reshaped roster, with some improvement from rookies who lost minutes because rookies lose minutes, and second-year guys who get better, and Grady Dick, for example, do you think there's a pathway here for better in-between lineup production from Scottie Barnes than we've seen?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is part of why you want to stagger the starters. And I think you want to just have Scottie playing with better players. And whether that's the internal growth of the rookies and coming along in their sophomore and third year seasons, or if it's just by having, guys like RJ or Yak or Quickley or Ingram out there with him. I think that's going to promote better play from these secondary lineups. I think that Scottie is someone who needs that. I think, we've seen offensive stretches where when he's playing with those bench lineups, the offense just gets stuck in mud and there's nowhere to really go and create. And I think that's where he probably needs the most help. And I think now with this added talent and maybe even some more confidence from the bench guys, because let's face it, even with a Grady Dick, that's not someone you were looking at as a bench guy last season because of how much he had to play. And so now he's an option off the bench. Ochai should have increased confidence. Jacoby Walter should have increased confidence. And so I think just that added offensive support is going to be able to promote, the offensive efficiency of those lineups. And then I have full confidence that he can, at the very least, stabilize or even enhance whatever defenders are around him.
Yeah, I have so few concerns about Scottie Barnes on defense. It's crazy. He was so damn good last year. And it's one of I think, it's fair. The Raptors were bad. No one watched them in the back part of the year. But I do think Scottie Barnes becoming an ender of worlds defensively is one of the more under talked about sort of development stories of any player in the league last year. And I think this is the year where that could really start to, pay dividends. Let's go to our second lineups here. I'll go first with this one. No Scottie Barnes in this one for me. I'm going with a tried and true two-man combo as the backbone of this lineup that has won its minutes together in their entire time together. Now, they haven't played a lot of games together due to injury and tanking and more injury, but Immanuel Quickley and Jakob Poeltl, they win their minutes when they're on the floor together. Back in 2023-24, nearly 900 possessions together. They were a plus 6.9 net rating when they were on the floor together. They were really good on offense and good on defense. Those lineups in that stretch after the trade before Jakob got hurt. And then last year in a season where Quickley missed a lot of time and they were just clearly like throwing the season by the end of the year, a team that lost its minutes gargantuanly over the course of the entire year. They were plus 0.5 together in Quickley and Poeltl minutes as well. They won their minutes when those two played last year, despite a pretty rough context. And I just think like pull-up shooting guard, good pick and roll finishing big man. It's a good combination. I think the screening Poeltl provides for Quickley is really effective for getting him downhill into the teeth of the defense where he can make things happen with the floater, the driving kick game that I think maybe gets a little slept on as a thing he's good at. I just think that's a good backbone. And then in between, it's a $4 guy in Quickley, $5 for Poeltl. I spent $3 on Grady Dick, $2 on Jacoby Walter, and $2 on Mamu, baby. We're going big in the front court. We're going all in on shooting with Grady, Quickley, Walter, and Mamu around Poeltl. I think this lineup, if you throw it out at the start of second quarters against opposing second units, maybe, obviously in actual practice, you might even see RJ Barrett make it into this lineup at some point. Obviously can't do it for the purposes of this exercise because it's too darn expensive. But I think just Quickley, Poeltl, run it out against second units to start second quarters. You're going to just completely blow teams away. And I think, leaning all in on the shooting is a pretty good way to do it with this group as well. It might be a bit tricky defensively, but you're up against second units, so I don't really care. What do you think about this lineup? Do you have something similar in your quiver?
Yeah, I think that's a fun lineup. So my third lineup was going to be a Quickley Yak centered lineup, and so
so let's talk about it now. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the only one I'm swapping out is I left Mamu out and I brought Jonathan Mobo in. I had the defensive concerns, so I've got Quickley, Walter, Grady, Jonathan Mobo, and Jakob Poeltl. I think you've still got enough shooting in there between Quickley, Walter, and Grady. I think defensively now, if you have Mobo and Yak in the back line, that's something that alleviates, I think, a lot of the burden off of Jacoby, because I think then you're kind of stuck with him as the only good perimeter defender. And I think Mobo has been really good defending pick and rolls. I think it still allows Yak to kind of be the best version of himself and Grady to be the best version of himself too. And I think it just alleviates a lot of the concern there. Mobo, his biggest concern is the finishing around the basket. And so I think having Yak there, having that pick and roll chemistry between Quickley and Yak is going to take away some of that, and he can just crash the offensive glass and get you some extra possessions. Yeah. And so I just went a bit different with Mobo instead of Mamu.
Yeah, sure. I thought about Mobo in there too, just for budgetary reasons. I just think I'm fascinated to see what Poeltl looks like with a 4 next to him that can just bomb threes. And look, I don't know how you feel about Mamu. I'm not out here thinking he's going to be some kind of revolutionary player. He's on the minimum. He's not going to totally change the game for this team. But I do think there is just the element of having a dude out there who is just going to let it rip. And I mean, the above the break stuff with him is the really encouraging part. Most of his threes come above the break. He shoots very well on them. I think 38% above the break last year. That's you could pull the top off your offense a little bit with that. And I think next to Jakob Poeltl, with the finisher that he is, and if you throw a couple guys in there who can make something happen on a second side action with Grady Dick, who we know can put the ball on the deck and get to the rim, hasn't finished super well, but I think in that spacing environment, he's going to see less help at the rim. Same for Jacoby Walter, a guy who we know can kind of put the ball on the deck and get to the cup. I think there is a pretty harmonious ecosystem within that lineup that, might give back some stuff defensively, but Mamu Poeltl as just a front court. It's just been so long since we've seen modern spacing in the Raptors front court. And, it's not to say that's the only thing that matters. I'm as excited for that look as I am for Murray-Boyles and Barnes to just kind of defense it up without any shooting. But where are you at on Mamu as far as how effective you think he can be? Do you think he's going to be part of the regular rotation for this team, or is he someone who might kind of wax and wane in terms of whether he's in the good graces or not?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a pretty situational player. I think that, if injuries become a factor, if there's, to your point, a desperate need for some spacing, say it just happens to be one of those nights where Jacoby and Abaji are just ice cold. And so, you try to get some more spacing in there, some more shooting in there.
Maybe you're getting zoned up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think those are the opportunities that are going to present themselves for Mamu. I do think, just based on the little I've watched, it's kind of to your, in terms of what helps your lineup, it's offensively, he can kind of be that spacing five, but defensively, you probably don't want him against fives. And the Raptors are well suited to do that with, whether it be Scotty or Mobo being able to take on some small five responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And then whenever you have Yak out there. So if you've got Yak out there, then, it kind of works where Yak's operating inside, Mamu's giving you the spacing, and then defensively, you still have Yak protecting the inside. And then Mamu not doing that.
Anytime you cannot have him protecting the rim, I think will be good. And I don't think there will be really many lineups where he is asked to protect the rim. He's going to be out there with one of Poeltl, Scotty, or Mobo, I think, at all times, or Murray-Boyles, right? I think it'll be pretty rare that Mamu is your last line of defense. And if that is the case, something horrible has happened. We're going to come back on the other side here. Big V, we each got one more lineup to run through. I finally have RJ Barrett involved in the lineup. I think, working with the bench might be a place where he can find some success this year. We'll get into that. Close things out coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at Monarch Money. Ever wish your money felt easier with Monarch Money? It can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And look, I just had a kid. It's time that I got my crap together when it comes to my finances. And my wife and I, we each have our own personal accounts, a shared account for our mortgage and savings, and now saving for the kids' future and all of that stuff. And Monarch Money is going to make that so much easier for us because everything's in one place. We don't got to go to multiple websites, find different logins. Oh, no, I need to see this account, but you have the login for that. No more of that. It's all there for us on our Monarch Money account. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDINNBA at monarchmoney.com. 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDINNBA for half off your first year. Go check them out. Back at it here with Big V Vivek Jacob as we continue to play lineups on a budget. Same name that I had last time. I haven't thought of something better. So whatever. If you out there have a name for it, please pass it along. All right, let's get to our final lineups we've concocted within these very stringent rules under the $15 cap we're working with. Big V, I'll throw it to you. What's your third lineup you want to toss out?
So my third lineup actually is just slightly tweaking from my first lineup. And so I've got...
cop out, fine. All right.
So we've got Jamal Shed, Ochai Abaji, Jamison Battle, Scotty Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl. So I wanted to have a Scotty and Yak lineup.
Okay.
Obviously, to afford that, I had to have Jamal Shed at the point, get Ochai Agbaji in there. And, Darko won't be operating on a budget, so he'll likely just have Grady Dick in there instead of Jameson Battle. But I've gone with Jameson Battle to make the budget work. I think this is a lineup that, you need some shooting. So you've got Agbaji and Battle in there. We'll see what Jamal Shed gives you this season. And then I just think that the Scotty and Yak chemistry is pretty solid. I think that especially defensively, this is a lineup that can insulate Battle and can also really just rev it up between Shed and Agbaji and Scotty and Yak. As you can tell with most of my lineups, I kind of skew defense first. And yeah, I think it's a fun lineup. I do have some honorable mentions that include RJ, but unfortunately he did not make my top 3 picks.
I like that lineup. I included RJ in my 3rd lineup because I think it's an interesting opportunity to talk about him running with the bench. But first, you talked about kind of leaning defense with a lot of your lineups, and very much you did with this one as well. I asked this question to Mike Pina last week, and I might just ask this question to every single guest who comes on the show for the next little while because I think it's really interesting. Will the Raptors finish higher in offense or defense next year, Big V?
Man, that is a great question. I am someone who feels like the Raptors still have to prove what they really have defensively because, again, second half of last season, they went up against a lot of weak teams. And if you just filter out for when they played the strong teams, the defensive rating was still not great. So I think they've still got a lot to prove on that. And then I think Darko, for as much as we've seen the uptick in assists and the passing and all of that, it has not translated to offensive efficiency. And so, it looks prettier, but the results haven't necessarily been there. I will lean towards the defense being better, just because I feel like, if we can just see Scotty and Yak play consistently, and then you throw in the other guys, and you throw in the fact that, you've got some strong defenders off the bench as well. I think that this should be a better defensive team. But what makes it a good question is the fact that, the same way I'm talking about Scotty and Yak having playing time together, it could just be, hey, Quickley plays 70 games and all of a sudden the offense looks a lot better.
Yeah, I do think there's going to be a lot of power in just having a full season of Quickley and Ingram playing together. Like those are probably 2 of the 3, if not the 2 best offensive players on the team. And they didn't have those guys for long stretches or at all last year. And so I think, it seems a lot to say, oh, they're going to jump from bottom 5 on offense up into like flirting with top 10. I do think, you add 2 offensive players that skilled to the mix, playing the full year with the full complement of other players, which, hey, they might not stay healthy, but I do think they're more injury insured this year than they have been in years past, just with like similar skill sets layered throughout the roster, like shark's teeth. I think there is, if you can get healthy quickly, healthy Ingram, I do think there's a pretty solid offense in here. That said, I do think they kind of derive their identity from defense, and I think they're just going to be a bunch of tryhards again. And I think, I lean towards the defense being a little bit better. Not to re-answer the question I asked Pina last week. I won't re-answer this question every single time I ask it, but we will ask this to everyone who comes on because I do think it's an interesting one to ponder. I believe Pina also said the offense would be better. So we're getting different answers all around, baby. Let's go to the my 3rd lineup. And I wanted to get a couple guys that haven't gotten in here yet. 3 guys that haven't gotten in here yet. We'll go bottom to top in terms of the amount of money spent on each guy. $1 I spent on Jamal Shed to run point. $2 I spent on Colin Murray-Boyles. He's basically the small ball 5 in this lineup. $3 I spent on Ochai Agbaji. $4 I spent on RJ Barrett, and $5 I spent on Brandon Ingram. So Shed, Barrett, Ingram, Agbaji, Murray-Boyles. Definitely on the smaller side, but I do like the sort of bookending of 2 defensive maniacs in Shed and Murray-Boyles. And then in between you have some shooting, some offense, and I think for RJ Barrett, a chance to actually create with the ball in his hands in an environment where he's not being overtaxed against good competition. I think, look, when he's playing with the starters, I basically never want to see RJ Barrett running offense next season. I want to see him in transition, sure, grab and go, finish on the run, not a problem. You're good at that. And then beyond that, I want to see him roaring out of the corners off of curls, catching at the nail, getting downhill, and finishing, sort of working second side, taking advantage of other people's gravity and turning that into something for him. I think it needs to be streamlined. I think it needs to go back to what it very much was in the back part of the season after the trade, where his role was very trimmed down, all the fat was cut off, and he was laser efficient. And I just think that's the recipe for him to be successful in the starting lineup. You can't be running pick and roll while you have Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, Immanuel, Quickley, Jakob, Poeltl all hanging around watching him. It's just not going to work. In the second unit, though, like, there was a very real, tangible improvement made by Barrett last year when it came to his pick and roll creation and playmaking. Not in a way that I think runs starting lineups, but in second units against bench looks, 100%. I think that's the place you get RJ his touches. And I think playing with Ingram, him and Barrett can kind of tag team the creation duties in that look. You have Abaji for spacing and defense. You have Murray-Boyles for defense and rolling and short rolling and all that stuff. And then you have Jamal Shed, hopefully, fingers crossed, knocking down some catch and shoots while also bringing his high pickup point, nasty defense and all of that. What do you think of this lineup? Do you think this is a world in which RJ Barrett can thrive?
Yeah, I think it's a fun lineup. I think, to your point, the way he's improved in the pick and roll, the way he's improved as a passer, you want to get him those reps and you want to get him those opportunities. And so I think that's the biggest part. I think for me, when I was just trying to figure out RJ lineups, it's just about, hey, how can you get him the defensive protection that he needs? And so I think yours should do enough of that. And yeah, I think, you have CMB in there. You've got the length of Ingram in there. So I do feel like this should be a fun lineup. I think the one thing I've been thinking about with RJ and Ingram is, like, when Ingram is out there with RJ, it takes the pressure off him having to get all the way to the bucket, right? Because RJ is going to be the guy that is going to create that rim pressure. He is going to have those opportunities where he's driving to the basket. So Ingram can kind of be in his most natural role, I think. And so I think you've got that in there as well. On the subject of RJ kind of getting his playmaking chops in, I do have one lineup with RJ at the point. And so I thought this would be a bit of fun, where you have RJ, Jacoby Walter, Brandon Ingram, CMB, and Mamu. And so you get some spacing for Ingram and RJ to kind of operate. You've still got kind of some rim pressure between RJ and CMB, and then Ingram again is just like in his most natural role, and then Jacoby is just kind of being a gap filler for everything else. So I thought, I know that lineup's a bit funky, but I thought it could be a bit of fun to just see how that
funk it up, baby. That's the name of the game this year, man. I think look, I wanted Shed in there because I haven't had Shed in any of these lineups, and I didn't want to totally exclude him. I did exclude my boy Jonathan Mobo from all these lineups, which makes me feel sad. But like, there's going to be competition for minutes, man, and like, it's going to be, I think, pretty tough to crack into that top 9 or so, and to stay in there, you're going to have to perform well, because there are going to be guys knocking on the door. Not to say that Shed and Mobo aren't going to get looks this year, because I think they certainly will, but it's going to be a lot of competition, which is a good thing. It's a thing we haven't seen in quite some time. But if there is a concern I have with that lineup I put out there, it is just, if Shed's not hitting his threes, that's not a lot of shooting around Barrett. And I think we saw last year, Barrett needs shooting around him. He needs shooting in the corners to avoid, in particular the corners, to avoid having what happened last year. If you go back and watch his drives last season, the help is just there all the time. He's driving left, and the dude on the strong side is pinching in because they're not worried about the shooter in the corner. And there's just too many bodies and arms and limbs for Barrett to score through. And it's why he shot, 62% at the rim last year? Not good enough. And so If you wanted to swap in Grady Dick for Ochai Agbaji, get back some defense, I could see it. If you wanted to swap in Jamison Battle for Jamal Shed and have Barrett run point in this lineup, I could totally see it. But I wanted to get my boy Shed in there because he's fun, and I think he's going to play plenty off the bench because he's a maniac defensively, and that's what this team's whole thing is. We will leave it there. Big V, this was fun, pal. Great to play a stupid little game with you. Do you have anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Just the usual stuff. Raptors in 7 is going strong. I'll have some CMB stuff coming out, so you can look forward to that. And then I'm gonna do some player. Gonna do a combo of like player review and preview for next season in terms of just like prescribing stuff for what the team needs and what they should be improving going into next season. So you can look out for that. Yeah, just your typical off-season stuff. And besides that, all my NBA takes are going up on Basketball Insiders.
Oh yeah. Everyone go check out all Big V's work. It's great. You can find me in the Discord. That's where I'm hanging out on Blue Sky once in a while. But man, posting is sad these days. And so I don't do it much because then you have to scroll all the other posts and you get depressed. And so I'd rather hang out with my little guy at home. And that's more fun. But either way, Discord, I'm usually hanging out in there, shooting the breeze, all that good stuff, making fun of all the people for their idiosyncrasies. It's great. You can come and I'll roast you too. We'll leave it there. Thanks so much. Talk to you on Wednesday. I think we'll get Katie Heindel back on the pod this week some point. We'll also do the pessimist case for the Toronto Raptors this coming season after we did the optimist look with Michael Pina last week. So you have that to look forward to. Either way, thanks so much for rocking with the show. Bye-bye.